divisional games. The first time any team has done that in 25 years. But they're not alone. 5 of the Eagles' final 6 games are in the division, including all 4 after their Week 14 bye. The Giants will finish with 3 of their final 4 weeks of the season being inside the division. Last year, they were 4-2 in divisional games. And then the Cowboys, 4 of their final 5 games are against NFC East teams, with 3 of those taking place on the road. So it's a scheduling quirk, but it is very much worth looking closely at. And so as I bring my crew back in here, Teddy, you made this point earlier, and for those who are not watching, I think this is fascinating. If you're any of those teams, and in particular Washington, how are you approaching that?
Yeah, Greeny, you know how teams value their divisional games and how important and critical they can be to winning that division, especially if it's tight. So with there being now an extra game in a 17-game regular season, do general managers and head coaches start to load manage their players so they're 100% healthy for a stretch run? I mean, in terms of the Washington football team, I mean, they play the Raiders late before they get into that divisional stretch. I mean, is there a certain player that could use an extra week of rest? I mean, is there a team, for another example, that has a 4-game lead in the division and you want to save him? I mean, these type of things now I think will start to be talked about. I mean, is there a Sunday, Thursday, a stretch of a games where it's so tight and they look at it and it's like, man, this is a brutal stretch right here, and we've got player X that's not feeling so well, so we got 17 of them now. Do we take him out of this game to make sure he's healthy? Those type of conversations in terms of load management in the NFL. I know this is usually an NBA thing and a basketball thing, but now they can start to enter the conversation possibly.
Well, I mean, it's so interesting. There are words that I hate, load management, but I understand why you bring it up. Lewis, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think having a plan, to Teddy's point, is going to be crucial for these teams that have divisional games late in the season, and 2 that have late buys, where you wind up having a bye where after you have played 13 straight weeks of regular season football plus 3 preseason games. I mean, can you imagine that? You're going basically a full NFL season is basically what you're doing, a full NFL season prior to this year, before you would have a break, and then maybe you finish your season off with 4 or 5 divisional games that could just decide your fate as far as your ability to participate in the postseason. That's tough, man, and that's going to make you have to make some real tough decisions, especially if there are guys who are on that probable, questionable type of injury report, or have that kind of injury report status where you know, like, hey, look, I really need this guy down the stretch. This guy plays a crucial position, whether he's a pass rusher, a corner, a number 1 wideout, you know, a guy who's really your bell cow running back. There's going to be a lot of late night discussions going on between general managers and head coaches and coordinators to how to best manage this thing, you know, as the season goes on. Again, in particular for those teams that had those late November type of buys, which I just think, you know, for the NFC East in particular, when you look at Philly's schedule, that's brutal. I can't imagine playing that many games, going 16 weeks, 16 games, if you can count the preseason, and not having a break. That's a long time, man.
And then all those divisional games lined up after it. Diana, I know you've been making phone calls today. What are you hearing?
Yeah, Philly does have one advantage, though, Lou, right? They don't have to travel that much. Granted, it's still a football game. But just talking to a player over text message about this topic, he just made a very simple point. He just said it's another week where we can get injured, right? So it just actually made me think about last season when, obviously because of COVID-19, we saw no preseason games. And do you just remember how absolutely thrilled players were? I remember talking to players in week 6 and week 7 about how great they felt, how their legs felt so fresh because they didn't have to participate in so many games in that preseason. So, look, I think players these days are incredible at taking care of their bodies. But GMs, head coaches, as Lou alluded to, they're going to probably have to think about this, right? Because no one's going to want to see a Sixers Joel Embiid situation where, you know, you sit a player because he needs the rest and then you realize, well, we probably needed that guy. But I do think this is something where teams every year, they go into the season and they say, we're going to try to make the wild card. That's in their plan. We're trying to go this many games. So teams are usually prepared to play this many games in a season.
That, however, is the second NBA reference that we have made in this conversation. So we go to our beloved 5-box and we bring in our beloved Vince Carter, who knows all about this, although Vince Carter did not load manage. But that said, we did want to get an NBA player's perspective on all of this. Could we start to see load management in the National Football League, Vince? And as a fan, what would your thought be?
I mean, as a fan, I'm a Bucks fan. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Ted. I can see that. And with kids today, all of the opportunities out there for them to train, 7-on-7, is it 7-on-7s that I used to be a part of? Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but all of these different things that's available for you. I was once a quarterback, so I participated in some of these things. So all of these different outlets that's available for you, just like in basketball, there's more AAU tournaments. These guys are getting together to play more pickup games. There's so many things that these younger guys are doing now that we didn't really have available for us as youngsters. And so they're playing more games and they're beating their body up earlier. So once they get to the professional levels, they've already played years of football or basketball prior to. So yes, I do see load management. And I'm going to say it. Some of these guys aren't built like you see this panel. They're not built like it used to be back in the day where it just wasn't talked about and it wasn't something that was around at that time.
Speaking of which, Lewis, I'm just watching you listen to this, and I'm thinking, what would you do with Vince Carter? He played a little football growing up there. Where are you putting him? Where on the field are you putting Vince Carter on your roster when you're building one?
Come on, look out for your boy.
I'll tell you what, Vince Carter is playing the X position, and anytime we need a first down, I'm just throwing it up. I'm saying back shoulder, just go and get it. I don't care if he's covered, just throw it up. He's never covered.
I need him at my free safety. I need him behind me. I'm playing defense, linebacker, put him at free safety. That's my center fielder right there, Lou.
Listen, back in the day, they played both ways. He could do both.
Yeah, look, anywhere where Vince can go ahead and just jump and take the ball.
Safety, and I was a receiver.
There you go.
Okay. There you go.
Yes.
If he was at the NFL draft, Lewis, we would have called his name early a couple of weeks ago. Meanwhile, everybody sit tight and said, Vince, I need you. We're going to the hoop. Very quickly, let me run through some of the NBA action from last night. The Lakers lifted their 2020 championship banner at Staples Center, played the game without LeBron, Anthony Davis, Dennis Schroeder, or Alex Caruso, a game they needed against the Rockets, and Kyle Kuzma was the one who got it for him. You see Kuzma with a big bucket there with under 2 minutes to go. The Rockets, that's Jayshawn Tate knocking down a three. They would actually take the lead late. And so the Lakers needed this bucket at the end from Kyle Kuzma to win it, but he gets it. Kuzma had 19 points, 10 boards, 7 assists, and the Lakers got the win 124-122. So with that win, they don't really move anywhere because the two teams in front of them in the standings also won, Portland and Dallas. So the Lakers remain a game out of a top 6 spot with 2 games remaining in the regular season. Our analytics say it's an 89% chance they wind up in the play-in. The other headline from the NBA last night, the Nets taking on the Spurs and the return of James Harden. He was actually coming off the bench for the first time since 2012, and he didn't look like he missed a beat. I mean, look at that pass there early to Jeff Green for an easy dunk. They were up by 9, playing San Antonio. Third quarter, they're pulling away. That's Harden with the 3. He looks awfully comfortable. Fourth quarter, just watch this pass. This is Nicholas Claxton, who is going to be on the receiving end of this. Look at this. A little screen, a little roll, a little wide open slam. The Nets pulling away. Next possession, it's Harden. The Nets would shoot 11 of 17 off of his passes. Look at that dish there for Kevin Durant. Harden a double-double, 18 points, 11 assists in his return, and the Nets get an easy win, 128-116. He's back for the first time since April 5th, but they didn't have Kyrie Irving. This season, Brooklyn's Big Three has played together just 7 times, and not at all since February 13th. When they do play together, they're basically unstoppable. So, Vince Carter, I'm coming back to you. On my old show, we used to do a game called Either, Neither, or Both. There were question marks with both of these favorites. You got the Lakers. They've had all these injuries. They might be in the play-in tournament. You got the Nets. Their Big Three has played 7 games together. So as far as the NBA Finals, either, neither, or both. The Lakers going to get there. The Nets going to get there. Either, neither, or both to the NBA Finals.
This is a tough question, and it's a lot of questions that needs to be asked to understand where to go with this. Because if the Nets are healthy, I mean, you saw that 7 games, 124 points. You know, they're going to obviously defense is going to be the question on that side of the ball, but they're going to outscore anyone. That team is super talented. They can score. They've won. They get it, and they have their bench that has bought in to understand that we just need to make shots and support this team. Now, on the other side, if you have a healthy Lakers team, possibly you can make some noise. And in the 7th seed with the healthy Lakers team, they could run through the standings and see themselves right there in the finals. So I'm going to say yes, both can make it to the finals, and that would be something to watch.
It would. The answer is not either. It's not neither. It's both, says Vince Carter, and I completely agree. All right, Vince, stand by. We're going to do more with you in just a minute here. Another football topic I want to get you in on. But first, I'll remind everyone we got a good game